Our fourth speaker, Cynthia Spencer, is the current chair of the Arts and Cultures Advisory Board for the City of Corvallis and the executive director of the Arts Center, an organization dedicated to integrating the arts into community life through dynamic collaborations, innovative outreach programs, diverse exhibitions and cultural events, and creative educational opportunities. Opportunities that Eric just mentioned are at the very heart of the maker movement. Cynthia is an accomplished pottery maker whose work has appeared in galleries and at art markets throughout the United States. She also serves on the boards of the Oregon Potter Association, the Calyx Feminist Press, and Corvallis Fall Festival, our town's largest art gathering in Central Park. Please join me in welcoming Cynthia.
Thank you. So thanks for having me here today. I feel like I'm the Luddite of this group because I am a potter and I make things out of clay. And clay is one of the lowliest materials around. It's really dirt and mud, and as you heard, I heard earlier, worm casting. So clay is just a lowly material to work with. But potters are a strange breed of person. They're very passionate about what we do because we love clay. We love the physicality of clay. We love the way it bends to our touch. We love how the clay warms up as you touch it. And so if there's any of you here who aren't afraid of my microbes, I will pass around some of these pots for people to feel. And so when you're touching them, I invite you to use your fingers and thumb and just feel around inside the pot. And you can feel immediately where I've touched and where I've pinched. And your fingers will feel some irregularities. They'll feel all the bumps. I was wearing a ring when I made these, so you'll feel some of those places where the ring has touched, made an indentation. So pottery is just very addictive that way. The language of pottery is even the language of humans, or vocabulary of humans. There's a neck and feet and bellies of pots and arms on pots. And so pottery is addictive that way. It's very much a part of us. Some of our earliest artifacts, in fact, were shards from clay vessels. And from those shards, we know a little bit about early humans and what they ate and how they stored food, and a little bit about their lives, just from those little pieces of clay that we put together and can tell a little bit of the history. Clay is also kind of interesting because it can be very soft and voluptuous, or it can be very hard-edged. And so this is an example of one of my bowls, a utilitarian bowl, that I've made by hand, not on a potter's wheel, and I'll pass this around. And pottery can be kind of cutting edge, shall we say. This is this little sculpture I made and decided I was going to play around with it a little more, and so added some wire to it. And I didn't know what it was I was making when I made this. I think it's maybe something about interior and exterior spaces. It may be a little bit about mystery. It's definitely about mystery, but I'll pass this around. But there's a soft bowl and then a hard-edged sculpture. So pottery is funny because, and I think a lot of potters will tell you this, we do everything the slow, hard, tedious way. That bowl took me hours to make. If I sat at a potter's wheel, potters can churn out 50 bowls a day. I maybe could get 10 or 5 or 10, and it was just all about the touch and really enjoying how that felt in my hand and working it over and smoothing it out and just, it's a love of making. And yes, there's a lot of chemistry and physics. You have to know how, what rocks are gonna melt and make a glaze, and you're gonna have to know if you're building something, what's the physics of how tall you can make something before it collapses on itself. So there's all of those things, but when you're making in clay, you're not thinking of all that. You're learning it intrinsically, but you're not necessarily having to learn it by books. But a teacher can use that making with your hands with clay and teach a lot of different other things. You can teach the physics, you can teach the chemistry, you can teach construction techniques, there's equations by building things. Clay is geopolitics. Clay mined out of, cobalt mined in Africa. When they had conflicts there a few years back, it halted all exports of cobalt and drove the prices sky high on cobalt. And potters were screaming, because it was so expensive. We're very cheap. Clay is also just very engaging for its physicality. And potters get together and share a lot of information. And one of the reasons why I credit or blame becoming director of our local arts center here in town is because of the very strong clay community. In trying to learn more information, I joined the Oregon Potters Association, and because I was one of the few people who had a Mac Classic 2-megabyte hard drive, I ended up doing the mailing list for that organization. And because I met so many people as the membership chair, I got drafted to be president. And so all of a sudden I was president of this 400-member statewide organization, and we do a large trade show every year. And so it was just that community of artists all sharing information that I realized the arts is the bigger organization was a really great way to go, promoting the arts and promoting clay to the greater community. There's a big trade show that happens the first weekend of May every year, and they have a lot of educational opportunities, workshops, and it's potters from all over the state selling their work, and you'll see just about anything you can imagine at that show. So one of the reasons why I got into more of the admin and advocacy of being an art center director was because of my passion for clay. And I really credit art for having saved my life as a youth. When I was going to school, I was in the Eugene School District, which was very progressive at the time, and had ended up moving to a small rural town where I was very different looking. I was one of the few kids of color, and I was really chubby. So school was not really fun anymore when I had to move and make all new friends and get teased a lot. So the art at that school, the art room is where I found my community and really felt safe, and everything I did was praised and valued by that group. And through that, I started doing some other extracurricular things like painting backdrops for theater performances and banners for the homecoming and all of that kind of stuff. So the arts community really embraced me, and it definitely helped me keep going through school. So now as the director of our local arts center, I feel like it's a crime that kids don't have art in school anymore. It's very, you've heard the great arguments already made for it. So, and there's tons of data out there, but I just thought I'd share a couple of stories about how the arts impact kids that I've seen. I was talking with a teacher who told me she had really literally given up on a student until, because he had behavioral problems, and he just seemed very unwilling to learn in her class. But when we went in with an artist residency and spent time in the classroom with an art project, she said, for the first time, I saw that kid light up, become engaged, and spend hours working on his art project for that class. And she said, I've totally have changed my mind. I see now another access point for reaching out to him. And it felt so good to be able to praise him at the end of that class for the project that he completed. And art, you fail a lot. There's a lot of ways you can do the wrong thing and have to do it over and over again. But in art, as for a kid in school to be able to complete an art project and get praise, that's some of the highest form of value that a child can get, and really helps them out. One of the other programs that the Art Center does, we work with young women at the Oak Creek Corrections Facility over in Albany. And these are young girls from 15 to 18 who have gotten in trouble, and that is the young women's it's a prison. It's not, in our justice system. It definitely is incarceration. And we go in and do some arts programming with them, arts and poetry and some music. And some of these girls, through writing poetry and taking self-portraits that can't show their faces, they learn some positive means of self-expression that isn't the cutting and slicing on themselves with sharp objects. And they tell us how much they value finding their own voice that they can share with other people. So that's just been so rewarding to me to see how art can make a difference in kids' lives that way. Some of the other, I have other stories, but I hope that everybody else has made a very good case for the arts in the schools and really trying to have the arts, science, technology, math, have that all be very integrated. And so I'm really pleased that you put together this panel today. I will just say that I'm really excited about what's going on here at OSU in this vein. Because you guys are a research college, the Arts Center down in little old downtown here has sometimes felt a difficulty breaking into the university and getting people down off the hill to come visit us. But we have been partnering more with the college in the last couple of years with getting artists and scientists to work together on projects. And it's kind of a holdover from the old Da Vinci days that some of you may or may not know about, but there's many more collaborations going on. And in fact, I went to a panel yesterday that shared, where there were people sharing about an arts and science collaboration and talking about how that we're working on more of those in the future. So I really invite you to seek out those opportunities and get out there and make things.
Thank you so much.